Hey guys, I just wanted to preface that this video essay ended up being about an hour and 15 minutes long, so to make it more digestible, I decided to split it up into 3 parts. After these 3 parts are released, however, I will also put out the full video essay, but I thought this way would be best for engagement. This is the 3rd video in this 3-part series, so if you haven't watched the first 2, they will be linked in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and with that noted, let's get into it.
But when I do, I don't follow through, 'cause my heart belongs to death.
Hello, can you hear me? You're
10 years have passed since Delta quote-unquote died, and his one largest drive is to be with his daughter, who he has some untold connection to.
Daddy was sleeping for such a long time, and Eleanor has missed you. Find her and you'll be all better.
As Delta traverses the new Rapture, we are given a parallel story of a father looking for his daughter. This is done to frame Lamb's effects on the human will, as far as the little sisters and those related to them are concerned.
Barely made it down alive. But here it is. And it's real. Rapture. This is where that thing took my poor baby girl. From what I saw in the sub, most of the city's in ruins. But there were lights here and there. And shapes moving. I'm rambling, scared, I guess. But maybe, if I find this Dr. Lamb I keep hearing over the PA, I'll find Cindy too.
Sadly, Mark's story ends up being much like Delta's, but at least he has a role in helping contextualize the Lamb era of Rapture, and this will help Delta to better deal with the plans of Sophia down the road. We are framed as the protector of the little sisters early in the game through the introduction of the big sisters. This helps to create the narrative of Delta's character, and foreshadows the role of the sisters later in the game.
Big sister doesn't want you playing with me.
The Big Sisters are also set up as an extension of Lamb's power, and as we learn more about them, we get context as to why they are. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Eleanor's connection with Delta allows for sporadic psychic communication, and soon enough, we hear from Eleanor herself.
Father, it's me, Eleanor. I know you're awake in there. I can feel it. Mother won't be able to toy with you like that ever again. This plasmid is for you. If I'm right, you can use it now. Please, find me.
As we can see, Delta is not the only one craving reconnection. When we are reunited to Tenenbaum from the first game, we are given more information about Delta.
Here is what the children tell me. You are a very old Big Daddy, bonded for life to a single little one. When you are apart for too long, your body begins to shut down like a coma. As long as the girl is in Rapture, you are trapped here as well. The name of your little one is Eleanor Lamb, daughter of Sophia. She is kept at Fontaine Futuristics on the other side of the city. You must go there and save her before it is too late.
Not only do we better understand the connection between Delta and Eleanor, but the reason for Sophia's ownership of her as well. Early in the game, we hear from Gil Alexander, and what his role was in relation to Delta.
Dr. Siu Chong's death was a nasty blow to the Protector program, but I'm gradually settling into his role, picking up the slack that his carelessness left behind. We are gaining steam again, but I'm not satisfied. Yes, the Big Daddy defends the girl, but he is programmed only for the fight. Like a sheepdog who wanders off unless a wolf is tearing at his flock. When no aggressor is present, he regards his little sister as he might a common houseplant. We need something more, something stronger, an unbreakable physiological bond.
It is elaborated on that Alexander's methods didn't necessarily have Delta's good in mind.
We lost another of the Alpha Series protectors today in testing. Somewhere outside the city limits, he simply vanished. For these men, Rapture has no walls. We must find a method of conditioning them against abandonment of the Little Sisters. Something physical, possibly even lethal. The lab aides are starting to call them Big Daddies. Perhaps there's some genius to that. Bonded pairs, connected by a love that kills.
This is an important setup for what we learn later, as we confront Gil in his crazy state of being. Early on in the game, we start to hear voice clips of Lamb's influence on Eleanor. Well, Eleanor is in early development.
In ethical psychiatry, we must account for...
Eleanor Lamb speaking. Mum says I'm not to play with the other children because they're being raised on a diet of dog eat dog. I wanted to see these dog eaters, so I waited until Mum was gone and went out to find one. And guess what? The dog eaters wear human skins. It makes them look just like us.
The dehumanization of Rapture's citizens being taught to a child makes it clear what kind of villain we're dealing with in this story. The further along in the game we get, the more clear it is that Eleanor's will is being increasingly violated.
I think Mother knows I'm helping you like this. She's accelerating my treatments. Don't give up on me.
This constant motivation carries Delta through the plot, and I think helps the pacing of the game's story to never feel stagnant. We hear again from the mouth of Gil Alexander that Delta was the first successful pair bond between Big Daddy and Little Sister.
The pair bond is a success. If somehow an Alpha Series wanders too far from his little sister, our physical failsafe kicks in, a chemical trigger that induces coma. It is a symbiotic relationship enforced by the girl's pheromone signature. The first successful candidate was Delta, I believe. It is unfortunate that poor Dr. Suchong will not be here to raise a glass.
Furthering our understanding of Delta's role in the context of Rapture. Furthermore, we get another look at what the Big Sisters are.
The Little Sisters are getting older, which is troubling. As they reach adolescence, they become aggressive, feral. Worse, the Adam they ingest contains traces of lethal plasmids left over from the war. The splicers are becoming far more effective predators as well. Our Big Daddies are falling left and right. Perhaps the elder sisters could be trained to sniff out the lost Adam and reclaim it for us. Yes, from what I've seen, they certainly wouldn't have to wait for the culprit to die.
Speaking of context, we hear more about the life of Eleanor before her independence was overturned.
I'm all alone here, Mr. Diary. You're my whispering friend. A doctor keeps coming to see me. He says Rapture needs me, and tomorrow I'll be leaving with him. I ask why, and he just smiles. I'm not an orphan. Mum's alive somewhere, and Aunt Gracie is still probably looking for me. But I can't wait for them. I'm going to escape and find Amir, and we'll steal a submarine. Before it's tomorrow, I'll know what sunshine feels like.
This voice memo speaks to the negligence of Sophia's lack of parenting, a backfire of her ideology in regards to the structure of family. Ironically, this ends up keeping Eleanor even more in objection to her will as time goes on. Like Delta, she fights for the will to choose a life of freedom under the sun. The next big player we have to address in the context of Delta's life is Stanley Poole.
Well, I'm in. Yep, yours truly is the newest member of the Rapture family. I fed Wales a line about how the Tribune was stopping me from telling the people what's what, and without a word, he hands me an invite to this artist retreat here at the park. Lamb bought my Frustrated Novelist Act. She's even sponsoring me to ink it while I'm here. Except my story's all about her. And I don't think she's gonna like the way it ends.
Stanley is, in a word, a snake. We are introduced to him in person while trying to get on the train to the next location.
Okay, so dead men tell no tales, right? Wrong. See, with Adam involved, every stiff's got a story. And Lamb knows how to read it. If that stuff makes it back to her, I'm an obituary. So, I want you to take the story of Dionysus Park and bury it. Get rid of the little sisters for me. Your way. Do that, and I'll unlock the station here. Scout's honor.
While we take care of the little sisters in Dionysus Park, we are given further insight by Eleanor into Stanley's role in the story.
Father, this Adam you found contains memories from all the bodies here. Normally, only a little sister can see them, but I can show you what Stanley is trying to hide. When Mother was taken away, Stanley was left in charge of Dionysus Park. He spent all her money through these mad parties. It was like he was trying to ruin her.
He also starts to connect the dots for Delta himself.
Subject Delta's just a serial number, amigo. I did a lot of digging on you for a feature once. They used to call you Johnny Topside. Found the city all on your own in a diving bell. Real shame what they did to you.
As more details are unraveled, we learn an unfortunate fact about Eleanor.
That's me there. I confronted Stanley. Said I'd tell Mother what he had done. He panicked. Took me away and sold me to an orphanage. I tried to fight back. I remember biting his hand, but... Father, he's the reason I was turned into a little sister.
Stanley obviously knows more than we were led to believe, and eventually tells Delta where he came from.
Now, you were just a deep-sea explorer with iron cojones, pal. The public gave it a nickname, but Ryan was sure you were a spook, so his people locked you up, erased your damn name. Goodbye, Johnny Topside. Hello, Subject Delta.
I have to at least note that having the nickname Johnny Topside is a nice nod to show how Delta represents Eleanor's wish to get to the topside herself. She is drawn to the surface, as she is also drawn to Delta.
With me gone, Father, Stanley just let Mother's followers turn into animals. When word came that she was returning, he knew they would blame him. So he found a way to silence them all. And now he's trying to cover it up.
Stanley is revealed not just to be the reason for Eleanor's plight, but an unapologetic mass murderer. And he doubles down on it.
That's it. Now all that old dirt stays underground, and Lamb will be none the wiser. Hey, come on back. I've unlocked the train for you. But remember, if Lamb catches you, mum's the word.
If this wasn't bad enough, Lamb also informs us that Poole is indeed the reason Delta became a Big Daddy, hence leading to all the pain that the protagonist has gone through.
Subject Delta, I have known for years of Stanley's betrayal here, and had forgiven him. But in compromising Eleanor now, he seals his fate. You see, it was Stanley who turned you into Ryan. He is responsible for what you have become. The security booth is open now. You may have your revenge.
Sweet Jesus. Lamb knew? And she just let me hang myself out the... Oh, God. No. Come on, pal. The train's ready. Just let me live.
Will Delta continue to show mercy to those who have wronged him? Well, that's up for the audience to choose, creating the nuance of Delta's character along the way. After making our choice, Sinclair tells us what Sophia seems to be using Eleanor for.
This is it, Chief. End of the line. If I'm right, Eleanor's mama's using Adam to force all Rapture's minds and memories into the poor girl. Lamb reckons it'll make that child a saint. Now, Eleanor's in a deep, dark place beneath Fontaine headquarters, and to keep you alive, we need to sneak in and find her.
We then get an idea what involvement Gil Alexander had with Eleanor.
I look in the mirror, and I see a freak. I remember very little. Just an artificial sense of peace and a compulsive hunger for Adam. Dr. Alexander is trying to help me adjust. He's responsible for part of my condition, but he wants to make amends.
We also find out, as we saw in part 2, that Gil was the first test subject for Sophia's use of Adam to mesh collective consciousness together.
Dr. Alexander has agreed to accept both measures of the new utopian project, He will become a kind of genetic chimera, host to all the minds of Rapture, accessing their talents and memories via the Adam we have gathered. And deriving in part from Project WYK, I have developed a new set of behavioral constraints. Dr. Alexander will live to promote the common good. His love and loyalty shall be spread evenly across the entire human race. For me, that is discipline at great personal cost. For him, at last, it will be instinct.
Hence why Alexander goes insane. As we explore where all this mad science took place, Delta stumbles across the place where he and Eleanor became connected.
This is where they bound us together, Father. Playing God. You were the only good thing that Rapture ever gave me.
Lamb, of course, gives her 2 cents on the matter.
She was not meant to have a father, Delta. She was to be an heir to my life's work. And this is where they changed her, bonding her to you. The child she was died in this room.
For a collectivist, it sure seems to be all about Sophia, doesn't it? We then get to see what conclusions Eleanor comes to in response to the Alexander experiment.
Mother has destroyed Dr. Alexander. She tried to splice him into some kind of living saint who would calculate the common good and adhere to it tirelessly. But now he's become something unspeakable. Mother's philosophy is just as corrupt as Ryan's. By her standards, it would be better to have the entire world equally miserable than to allow us to strive in our own behalf. I have to get out of here.
At this point, Delta and Eleanor merge into one directive. Before leaving to find Eleanor, Gil gives us the final piece of information we need to understand if the Big Sisters are just drones, or if there's any more humanity left in them.
Well, that's the end of the Alpha series. The pair bond simply worked too well. That madwoman Tannenbaum bit the company hand, turning some of the bonded sisters human again. Others were lost to splicers. Either way, the trauma proved too much for the bonded protectors, resulting in unreasoning rage or coma. We can harness their suicidal aggression as foot soldiers, but no more, I'm afraid. Today I saw one kneeling near a gatherer's garden and crying.
As depressing as it is, Delta had to kill many girls just like Eleanor up to this point, used for their natural talent, and disposed of just as frivolously. On our way to the final area, Lamb finally tells us why she chose Eleanor as the vessel for her experiment.
Eleanor's condition may be a blessing in disguise. Early splicing tests indicate 0 genetic damage due to her condition as a little sister. It appears that she is our new vessel. This will be no mere personality schism, though. Rapture's genius will be held within her DNA, able to shift into desired patterns at will. A utopian cannot be confined to a single throw of the genetic dice. When needed, she is a composer, a dancer, an engineer. She truly will be the people's daughter.
A true warping of Marx's ideas of choosing your daily activities. A much more superimposed version. Sophia attempts one last effort to stop Delta from taking her beloved daughter.
How will she remember us after this moment? I have placed my pieces on the board, as expected, as have you. Is this what she hoped for? Mother and father, locking eyes. Yet still we are blind. Goodbye, Subject Delta. And take heart, for you, at least, have escaped your legacy.
Delta, of course, persists.
Look at her, Delta. 10 years, and still she dreams of you.
50 seconds remaining.
Do you know why Eleanor brought you here? She wanted a father. So she found a way to restore you in body and mind. she has been watching you ever since, exalting your every act as gospel. The girl lying on that bed is no longer my child, nor my life's work. She is a monster, shaped by you alone. Just as she has always wanted.
20 seconds remaining.
But there is one detail of your mutual bond she failed to account for. Your body was designed to lapse into a coma when her heart ceases to beat. Eleanor, forgive me.
It's only fitting that we get a look into what Eleanor has experienced through the eyes of a little sister, so that the bond between Delta and her can be that of a shared mental bond. The directive being reinforced and pushed forward.
Father, it's me, Eleanor. I'm so sorry. Mother stopped my heart long enough to sever our bond. Staying near me won't stop you from dying now. Or worse. But I can still help you escape. This little sister's brought you something that will allow you to take control of her.
Not only is this something we've never seen in the game series before, but it adds new context to the brainwashing techniques of Rapture over the years. This section of the game really drives home the point that Rapture is beyond saving, and that the best thing to do is to bury it. Or, at least, get out of this dystopian nightmare. Eleanor feels that a better way to make progress on the goal of escaping would be to take on the functionality of a big sister, much like Delta has used his Big Daddy features to better progress in his goals.
What Mother did to me left me very weak, or I would do this part myself. To save your life, I'm going to have to change, to be like you. From here, you should be able to locate the pieces of a big sister suit. Please, bring them to me.
We see Delta's influence on his daughter more than we ever have before.
Eleanor is changing as Delta draws closer. In her sleep, she mutters about having witnessed moments from his journey here. She is beginning to resist the moral conditioning. Eleanor's bond with Delta is turning her from the daughter of the people back into a rebellious child whose voice I do not recognize. Worse, I suspect Eleanor of direct involvement in his return.
Over here.
I fear that to separate them, I may have to take measures for which I will be unable to forgive myself.
I love how, as the one person Sophia actually cares about, in her own warped way, begins to become more like the opposing force to her ideas. She grieves, as a mother would for her child going in a different direction. The game keeps Lamb's humanity very grounded the whole game, and I think that speaks to the quality of writing. But, even though the game humanizes Lamb, it doesn't shy away from the evil that she is responsible for.
10 years, Father, stuck in this fever dream. Mother kept me sedated in order to perfect my mind with Adam. To her, the ideal child is a genius, serving the common good without questioning it. You have saved me from that.
Luckily, Eleanor has at least one parental figure who can guide her towards a better life.
I am free. After everything Mother has done to me, I am alive and sane enough to be curious about the sun. When you rescued my new sisters, I felt every one. And it gave me hope for the first time in years.
We have reached the reunion, father and daughter united with the same goal.
Now I will do the same for all the others, starting with this one. We've done it, Father. I'll be there soon. These suits always did make me think of you, Father. I guess I still remember you in shining armor. But now it's my turn to fight for you.
Now Delta's role as a literal Big Daddy comes to a head. Our silent protagonist must be so proud.
Subject Delta, I know you can hear me. You have stolen my life's work, and with it, my only daughter. But Rapture is the house of monsters. The surface will not have us. And now, we shall be buried as a family, side by side.
In a last-ditch effort to remain in control, Sophia does what honestly should have been done years ago, drowning the city in its ocean grave. Ironically, this gives Delta and Eleanor some bonding time to work together to do whatever it takes to get out.
Look, Father, I know you may not have wanted a daughter, but love is just a chemical. We give it meaning by choice. I will be damned if I let Mother take you away from me again.
I love how Eleanor keeps confirming her love for Delta along this last team effort. At long last, the father-daughter duo overcome Lamb's obstacles, but Delta unfortunately is left in pretty rough shape.
The bombs, Father! We're falling! Run!
The deed is done. Delta gets one last look at Rapture before he is violently pulled up to the surface.
And then, Father, the Rapture dream was over. You taught me that evil is just a word. Under the skin, it's simple pain. For you, mercy was victory. You sacrificed, you endured, and when given the chance, you forgave. Always. Mother believed this world was irredeemable, but she was wrong, Father. We are Utopia, you and I, and in forgiving, we left the door open for her.
As the end approaches, Delta gets to see the forgiveness he gave people influence the character of his daughter. A truly wonderful reflection.
The Rapture dream is over, but in waking, I am reborn. This world is not ready for me, yet here I am. It would be so easy to misjudge them. You are my conscience, Father, and I need you to guide me. You will always be with me now, Father. Your memories, your drives. And when I need you, you'll be there on my shoulder, whispering. If utopia is not a place, but a people, then we must choose carefully, for the world is about to change. And in our story, Rapture was just the beginning.
Even though Delta doesn't make it, he lives on through Eleanor in the person she has become and the moral she takes with her. I have never seen a game showcase the influence of parenting quite as well as BioShock 2. The crazy thing is that this is just one of the perspectives Eleanor can walk away with at the end of the game. BioShock 2 does one thing really well, and that is show us that free will is a responsibility with consequence. Objectivism and collectivism are merely two ideological extremes that lead to dystopia, and true utopia is found in meaningful and sacrificial relationships. The power of the self is to influence, and in those choices there is gray area and heavy emotional influences on choice. BioShock 2 shows us more than the dangers of extreme ideology in society. It shows us that society is made of nuanced individual perspectives, and that we need to respect the will of others while taking responsibility for our own. If a victim like Delta can strive to be better than his circumstances in a terrible dystopia, maybe we can strive to be less selfish and want what is best not only for ourselves, but our loved ones and the many people we affect just by interacting with them in society. BioShock 2 is a look within yourself, in a closed context, and it shows us how making choices crafts the person we become, and within those choices can be this little variable that is nuance. Thank you all so much for watching this 3-part essay. As promised, I will put out the full version in a week, and link it in all the video descriptions when it is available. Please comment what your takeaways were from both BioShock 2 and this essay in the comment section below. What characters stood out, and what philosophies or conclusions resonated with you? If you enjoyed my work here, I greatly appreciate it, and hope that you subscribe so you can stay posted on my future projects. It took me about 80 hours of organizing footage, writing, and editing to finish this project. So if you could, I would appreciate you hitting that like button so all my work can be passed along the algorithm to more interested parties in a look at one of the most acclaimed video game franchises of all time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for coming to the Dutch Ritz party.